Hello everyone. So in the previous example, we have actually looked at a two-tilt test, right? So two-tilt test, if you remember, that's when you actually play around with your H naught is equal to, if I just refer back from the previous example. So for two-tilt test, we actually go by H naught, the null hypothesis, with equal, and the alternative hypothesis as, which is H1 here, as not equal to. All right. If you remember picking up the same example, yeah, this is from company A that says that or claims that the mobile phone can actually last for 150 hours before the next charge up. Yeah. And so this is of two-tilt test. So in this example, why not in the next example, why not we still draw back from the same related questions, but we are going to work on one tilt test. Yeah. So you see the difference, right? For two tilt tests, you have two ends over here. And remember, earlier the significance level is of 0.05. Yeah. But we take this as 0.025, 0.025. Yeah. That's for two tilt tests. So let's go on an example on one tilt test. Say that we have this competitor company, all right? This competitor company claims that this company A actually has its discharging time that is less than 150 hours, all right? So this company, let's call this company B. All right. So company B is trying to refute the claim and wishes to prove that the time between charging for his rival's phone, which is company A, which is less than 150 hours. So remember earlier when I mentioned about one tilt test actually go by either the left hand side or the right hand side. So it's only one tilt. Yeah. So well, it basically speaks for, it's pretty much self-explanatory. So, and then let's work on recalling what are the steps that we use. All right. If you remember, the first one is always to set up your H naught and your H1. Yeah, that's your null hypothesis and your alternative hypothesis. So in this case, in one tilt test, all right, it claims that its mu is less than 150. All right. And just as you're wondering, where do I park this? You park this at my mu1. Alright. So H1 being mu less than 150. And then this basically means that it's going to be more than 150. Alright. So you see the difference when it comes to two tilt tests, yeah, it's either equal or not equal to. So the equal to part usually goes by this H naught. Alright. So since the company A claims that it's 150 hours, this is being parked at H naught. For one tilt test, it's less than, whether it's less than or more than, alright, we actually park it at H1 here, alright, which is less than 150. Okay. And then next step, do you remember what it is again? Your alpha. All right. And then for the alpha, let's use the same significance level. All right. Assuming that company B is trying to refute the claim and saying, and they actually say that company A has discharging phone time of less than 150 hour, still go by your significance level of 0.05. All right. So this brings us to 5%, which is 0.05. If I am going to draw out my normal distribution, I know that this is actually less than. It's going to be one tilt test. And now, this is my cutoff region, isn't it? I still have my 150 here. And then if you recall, the one that we got earlier from the previous example, they take a random sample of 40 samples, all right, and they actually get the sample mean as 147.4. That's from the previous video example. I'm just going to use it again. You can always refer back to the previous video, all right. So these can basically lie either in the region or not in the region. So this is something that we're still trying to figure out. So in this case, I'm not going to write it, I'm not going to put a mark on it first, all right. So now, do you recall the third part is to perform your Z statistics because it's normal distribution. And how do we go by the formula? Remember earlier in the two-tilt test, we have a plus and a minus, right? Of Z of alpha, and then my sigma over square root of n. Yeah? So, of course, when it comes to one tilt test, it really depends, yeah? Because in this case, we're talking about less than. So for less than, we're using minus. Alternatively, vice versa, if you're looking at more than, then this eventually becomes a plus, all right? And one thing to take a note that, of course, we already have 150 as my mu. So this Z here, Z alpha, which Z alpha are we going to look at? So see that now, since it's one tilt test, my Z alpha will then actually be Z of 0.05. All right. So 0.05, if you remember the Z alpha that we had earlier is 1.96. In this case, it is not applicable anymore. Why so? Because the 1.96 is the Z value that gives out the probability of 0.025. All right. So what do you have to do? You again take out your Z table. You refer it, you do the reverse normal table. All right, in this case, you look at the probability which gives you 0.05 and look for the Z value for it. Okay, and this will then give you about 1.64. Okay, and then again, population standard deviation. This is the same as taking from the same example earlier. Our standard deviation is actually 12. And my n is actually 40 random sample, right? So this will bring me back to about like 1.9. So I'm just taking these as per previous questions, just for consistency purpose and just to let us see what's the difference here. And after calculation, you get that this will be 146.89. So what does this tell you on 1.56.89 is that your cut-off region here is actually 146.89. And now you want to look and see whether you want to accept the hypothesis or not, right? What's your point earlier? It's 147.4. So you look at it again, all right? And of course, it actually is not in the rejection region, yeah? So what can you draw from this then? What's the conclusion that you can draw from this? So since it doesn't lie in your rejection region, do you remember? What would that be? Then your H naught is accepted or rejected. In this case, remember earlier, if the point is in rejection region, then you reject. Yeah? If it's not, again, your null hypothesis is accepted. Yeah? So in this case, your null hypothesis is accepted. Because it's not in the shaded region. So basically that is what does this conclude, all right? So basically it actually tells us that there's no evidence to prove that at 0.05 significance level that your population mean is less than 150. All right, so that's how you actually go about this. So earlier you have looked at two tilt tests. This is one tilt test. You can see that it's pretty much the same. In the next video you will see another one on what happens if it's just not a one tilt test or two tilt test, but if you want to look between two means or two sample means and to see which one is actually better. So that will be in the next video. Yeah.